Welcome back to Dream Chasers. Today, we ask a question very few people dare to ask themselves. What discipline do you need to become unstoppable? Before we begin, remember to subscribe to Dream Chasers. Let us start with a confession. Most people do not fail because they are weak. They fail because they are undisciplined. Even the strongest mind collapses without structure. Even the most talented person becomes irrelevant without consistency. Power without discipline is like a sword without a handle, sharp but impossible to control. So what discipline do you actually need? Not the generic advice you hear everywhere, not work hard, not grind, not believe in yourself. Those are empty slogans when they are not supported by systems. You do not rise because you want success. You rise because you are built for it. The first discipline is self-control, the ability to govern yourself when the world offers you an easier path. Picture a person trying to quit smoking. Their enemy is not nicotine. It is the inner voice that whispers, "Just one more." Self-control is the science of refusing that whisper. It is the art of saying no to yourself before you say no to the world. Self-control is not natural. It is engineered. A soldier does not instinctively stand still in gunfire. A piano prodigy is not born knowing scales. A monk does not enter silence already at peace with it. They train. They repeat. They discipline the brain until what was difficult becomes automatic. Psychologists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. This is not philosophy, it is biology. Every habit, good or bad, is a neural pathway. Every decision strengthens or weakens it. When you say no to temptation, you are not only rejecting a momentary pleasure, you are rewriting the architecture of your mind. Let me give you a real-world example. In the 1960s, there was a famous experiment called the marshmallow test. Children were given one marshmallow and told they could eat it now, or wait and receive two later. Decades later, scientists tracked the children. Those who resisted the temptation, those who waited, were more successful in school, relationships, careers, and health. The lesson is simple. In life, the second marshmallow is always bigger than the first, but you need self-control to reach it. The second discipline is the power of daily routine. People say routines are boring. That is because they have misunderstood them. Routines are not cages. Routines are engines. Every great civilization had routines. Every great athlete wakes up with routines. Every successful business follows routines. We imagine freedom means doing whatever you want. But true freedom is the ability to create structure without a prison guard watching you. A routine is a silent promise to your future self. Look at someone like Serena Williams. No matter how talented she was, talent did not win championships. Routine did. Practice at precise hours. Diet managed with precision. Sleep timed like a machine. She was not just competing with opponents. She was competing with her own human weaknesses: laziness, fear, distraction. Discipline is the weapon that kills those enemies before they attack. Even writers, who many believe depend only on inspiration, use routine. Maya Angelou woke every day and went to a hotel room to write, even if she felt uninspired. Stephen King writes every single day, without exception. Why? Because inspiration is not something you wait for. It is something you summon. Creativity is not magic. It is ritual. The third discipline is removing temptations. People think willpower is enough. But willpower is a battery. It drains. The more temptations you keep around, the faster it collapses. If you want to study, and your phone is buzzing with notifications, you are not weak for checking it. You are simply human. Discipline is not resisting temptation forever. Discipline is removing the temptation so resistance is unnecessary. A real example: a man wants to lose weight. If his kitchen is filled with cookies, sodas, snacks, and desserts, he will lose. Not because he is weak, but because his environment is stronger than his intention. But if he changes his environment, clears the junk, replaces it with healthier choices, the battle becomes easier. Success is not only about personal strength, it is about intelligent design. Apple, Google, Facebook, some of the richest companies in the world, design everything around removing friction. They do not ask users to be disciplined. They build systems where discipline is unnecessary. You can do the same with your life. You want to read more? Put books where you see them. You want to work out? Keep your clothes ready at night. You want to study? Keep your desk clean. You want to wake early? Put your alarm away from your bed. Discipline is not just in. You want to wake early? Put your alarm away from your bed. Discipline is not just in the mind, it is in the environment. The fourth discipline is saying no. If you want to be unstoppable, you must understand that every yes is a contract. Time is not infinite. Attention is not infinite. Energy is not infinite. Every time you say yes to something small, you say no to something great. There are people who are always busy but never progressing. They run everywhere, help everyone, join every plan, attend every event, and achieve nothing. The world loves people who say yes, but the world respects people who say no. Let me give a real example. Warren Buffett, one of the richest investors in history, said the difference between successful people and very successful people is simple. Very successful people say no to almost everything. Steve Jobs cut hundreds of Apple product ideas because innovation is not creating more. It is removing what doesn't matter. If you want to be unstoppable, your life must become a museum of purpose. Every object, every dream, every task must deserve a place. Now, let us ask a harder question. Why is saying no so painful? Because humans crave approval. We want to be liked. We want to avoid conflict. We fear being judged, abandoned, misunderstood. But here is the truth. Every person who changed history was willing to disappoint others. Galileo said no to the Church's belief that Earth was the center of the universe. Marie Curie said no to society telling women they did not belong in science. Nelson Mandela said no to the idea that injustice was permanent. Saying no is not selfish. It is the highest form of self-respect. And now, a reminder. If you have not subscribed to Dream Chasers yet, do it now. These messages exist to awaken your potential, not to entertain your comfort. If you are here, it means you are building a mind that refuses to settle. The next discipline is silence, not the absence of noise, the absence of emotional chaos. Many people cannot sit alone with their thoughts. They rush to distraction, music, phone, friends, noise, anything to avoid meeting themselves. But an unstoppable human is not afraid of silence. They use silence as a tool. In silence, plans are born. In silence, weaknesses are exposed. In silence, truth speaks. Einstein walked alone for hours to think. Nikola Tesla spent days in isolation to imagine inventions. Great minds are not loud, they are deep. Sit in silence for 10 minutes a day. You will discover that the mind is a continent you have never explored. To be unstoppable, you need the discipline of vision. Not dreams, vision. A dream is a cloud. A vision is a blueprint. A dream says, I want. A vision says, I will. Every day, Your vision must guide your actions like a compass. When you know where you are going, self-control becomes easier, routines become meaningful, temptations lose power, and saying no becomes natural. Where there is vision, discipline is no longer a prison. It is a path. Now that we understand the disciplines of self-control, daily routines, removing temptations, saying no, silence, and vision, let us move deeper. Becoming unstoppable is not a motivational slogan. It is a structural transformation of your lifestyle and identity. The next discipline is emotional management, not emotional suppression. That is dangerous. Emotional management is the skill of feeling without being ruled by feelings. Anger can exist without becoming violence. Fear can exist without becoming paralysis. Sadness can exist without becoming surrender. The unstoppable human does not eliminate emotion. They discipline it. Think of firefighters. When a building is burning and people are screaming, they feel fear, but they act. When surgeons hold a dying patient in their hands, they feel pressure, but they work with steady hands. When pilots lose an engine mid-flight, they feel panic, but they follow procedure. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is disciplined fear. A real example comes from aviation. In 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 lost both engines after striking birds. The pilot, Captain Chesley Sullenberger, felt the same terror any human would. But discipline over emotion allowed him to calmly glide the powerless plane onto the Hudson River, saving every single life on board. That landing was not luck. It was disciplined emotion, disciplined thought, disciplined action. The average person's life is crashed by emotions long before a plane ever is. They quit when they feel tired. They lash out when they feel angry. They retreat when they feel insecure. They self-destruct to avoid discomfort. They build sadness into identity. That is why they remain stopped. To be unstoppable, emotions cannot be your steering wheel. They can sit in the car, but they do not touch the driver's seat. Next, the discipline of learning. Not school learning, life learning. Most people stop learning after graduation. They treat knowledge like a trophy, not a tool. But the unstoppable human understands that the world evolves every day. Technology changes, economies shift, skills expire. The present becomes outdated. If your mind is not upgrading, your life is downgrading. Consider how the world punished those who resisted technology. Companies like Kodak dominated film but refused to adapt to digital cameras. Blockbuster laughed at the idea of streaming, and Netflix erased them. Taxi companies doubted Uber. Encyclopedia publishers doubted Wikipedia. The world does not care how successful you were yesterday. The world asks, are you adapting today? You must treat your mind like software, constantly updated. Read, study, ask questions, learn from mistakes, seek mentors, research relentlessly. Discipline yourself to be uncomfortable in ignorance. If you are the smartest person in every room you enter, you are in the wrong rooms. Then comes the discipline of execution. Many people are geniuses of planning and failures of doing. They write goals, draw timelines, create vision boards, buy planners, and take no real action. Their dreams die in notebooks. Execution is the ability to move from thinking to doing without hesitation. A simple, real-world example. How many people buy gym memberships in January, go for 1 week, then vanish? How many start businesses but never make a product? How many start writing books but never finish a chapter? The problem is not ambition. The problem is the absence of execution discipline. You do not need more motivation. You need movement. Execution is measured in steps, not speeches. A brilliant idea without execution is invisible. A mediocre idea with execution becomes unstoppable. You do not need perfect conditions, perfect timing, or perfect confidence. You need disciplined action. Next is the discipline of boredom endurance. Success is not exciting most of the time. People imagine the journey as dramatic and inspiring. In reality, it is repetitive and uneventful. Athletes shoot thousands of the same shot. Scientists run experiments that fail 99% of the time. Musicians practice the same scales until fingers bleed. Entrepreneurs spend years building when no one applauds. Most people quit because the mission becomes boring. They want excitement, stimulation, novelty. But the unstoppable understand that boredom is part of mastery. If you only work when you're entertained, you will never create anything legendary. A real-world example. Olympic swimmers stare at the bottom of pools for hours every single day. No music, no applause, no spotlight, just water, repetition, silence. That boredom produces world records. Discipline means doing what matters long after the excitement dies. Next is the discipline of delayed gratification. In biological terms, humans are wired to seek immediate reward. Food, pleasure, comfort, dopamine. But greatness is built on the opposite instinct, the willingness to sacrifice right now for worth it later. This is the discipline of saving money instead of spending it. Studying today for results next year. Training now for victory next season. Building skills that pay off decades later. Most people never rise because they want reward without waiting. They want the harvest without planting the seeds. Investors know this well. Warren Buffett did not become one of the richest people by gambling quickly. He played the long game, letting investments grow slowly through compound interest. The unstoppable play the same game with their lives, compounding skills, compounding knowledge, compounding discipline. Another discipline, accountability. People love to blame conditions, childhood, parents, economy, government, luck. But unstoppable humans say, "It is my responsibility." When you take responsibility, you take control. When you blame, you give control away. If you say you have no time, check your screen time. If you say you have no energy, check your sleep habits. If you say you have no opportunities, check your effort. Accountability is uncomfortable, but it turns victims into architects. Then comes the discipline of energy management. Not productivity, energy. You cannot perform well if your body is exhausted, your mind is dehydrated, and your soul is neglected. Being unstoppable requires protecting your fuel. Real example, professional athletes spend more time recovering than competing. Sleep routines, stretching, hydration, nutrition, mental rest. They know that effort without recovery leads to collapse. The unstoppable human treats their body like a machine. Food becomes fuel. Sleep becomes strategy. Rest becomes maintenance. Health becomes non-negotiable. This leads to the discipline of cutting toxic people. You cannot rise while surrounded by anchors. Some people drain you, doubt you, distract you, deceive you. They complain, criticize, and This leads to the discipline of cutting toxic people. You cannot rise while surrounded by anchors. Some people drain you, doubt you, distract you, deceive you. They complain, criticize, and contaminate your goals. Discipline means protecting your environment, even if it requires losing friends. Look at every successful person in history. At some point, they separated from those who held them back. Not because they became arrogant, but because they evolved. You cannot take everyone with you. Some were only meant for the chapter you already finished. The next discipline is repetition. Not glamorous repetition, brutal repetition. Doing the task again and again until you cannot get it wrong. Many people practice until they get it right. The unstoppable practice until failure becomes impossible. Real-world example. Kobe Bryant shot hundreds of jump shots after practice was over. Musicians rehearse until their fingers move faster than thought. Martial artists repeat the same technique thousands of times. Repetition is the mother of mastery. At this point, you might feel overwhelmed. Good. Growth should overwhelm you. Transformation always feels like too much at first. But here is the secret. Discipline is not built in a day. It is built one small decision at a time. Wake 10 minutes earlier. Read 5 pages. Drink water instead of soda. Say no to one distraction. Clean one corner of your room. Work for 20 minutes without touching your phone. These are not small actions. These are bricks. And a fortress is built one brick at a time. Before we continue, here is your second reminder. If you have not subscribed to Dream Chasers, do it now. These messages are for those who refuse to live an average life. If you are still listening, it means you belong to the rare humans who are willing to build the discipline that most people avoid for their entire lives. Now, the next discipline is identity restructuring. People try to change habits while keeping the same identity. That does not work. You do not rise by forcing yourself to behave differently. You rise by becoming someone who behaves differently naturally. If you tell yourself, "I am trying to quit smoking," your identity is still a smoker. If you say, "I am not a smoker," the behavior changes because the identity changed. Identity drives action. When your identity is unstoppable, your actions become unstoppable. To do this, speak to yourself differently. I am disciplined. I am consistent. I am focused. I say no to distractions. I protect my mind and time. I finish what I start. Say it daily. The brain believes what it hears repeatedly, especially from your own voice. Another discipline is time isolation. A block of time where no one interrupts, no notifications exist, no conversations, no distractions, pure focus. 1 hour of isolation can produce more progress than 10 hours of scattered attention. Great thinkers like Isaac Newton and writers like J.K. Rowling locked themselves away to produce their greatest work. Isolation is not loneliness. It is concentration. The unstoppable human knows that every minute spent distracted steals from the future. Finally, the discipline of environment change. If your environment stays the same, your behavior will relapse. If you want to evolve, change your surroundings, your workspace, your friends, your habits, your routines. New environments create new identities.